It's on solid.
No, but this one.
Oh.
It automatically. Oh, there's a.
I could have just.
Facebook, right?
It said Facebook. I think we're live on YouTube too now.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
up,
they're
guys?
both green lights.
Okay,
Hey,
which
hey.
camera? Which camera is it?
The middle one?
Middle
Middle
one.
one?
Yeah, that one.
Hey guys.
What's up?
We're here.
What's poppin'?
What's
We're
good
back.
in the hood?
Yikes.
No, we missed Sean, but we don't have.
Do we?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
do. We also miss Anna Rose and Trevor.
Yeah,
And Gianni, because Gianni was supposed to be on tonight.
that's true.
That's why I'm here. You're stuck with me. Sorry, guys.
Ew.
You could have had Gianni,
I bet I wouldn't have water spilled on me if it was Gianni.
or you might still have.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he did grab the one that was right there. So if Gianni had the same thought process, it was still all over.
Fair enough.
But,
Yeah.
anyways, hey, what's up, guys? Important Cafe Youth is this Saturday,
It
6
is.
o'clock. Be there or be square. I have prior engagements, but I'm still gonna be there
This is true.
for
It's
some
my
time.
birthday weekend, and I'm still going to be there. So.
Yeah, she is. It's her birthday.
Yeah.
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 hmm
It's not my birthday weekend, and I'm still going to be there.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Z.
Wow.
And I don't have prior engagements,
Hmm.
but I'm still going to be there. Yeah.
The dedication.
The
that this man
dedication.
has. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm. But be there.
Yes.
Is there anything else?
Or you'll turn into a square. Heh.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about intergenerational.
Yes.
So we're having some, I don't know how to say this nicely,
some
Old
people of
people.
the older generation,
of the wiser generation
of the wiser
Old people.
generation.
are going to be coming, but they're not like old lame people. They're like cool
Yeah,
old people,
yeah.
you know?
Do we
I don't
know who
even-
those said people are?
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're not going to say it here because they need to come and...
Yeah, it's a surprise.
You
Yeah.
gotta come and figure
I'm
out. who it
excited
is.
about them because they're all really nice people.
Hmm?
So I'm excited about that. I don't know if I'd really call them old.
Middle aged?
Right.
They're upper middle aged.
Middle aged. Like
Yeah.
60s?
I don't
We don't have to.
I don't
disclose
ask
that.
them
Okay.
their age. They're older than me.
So therefore, you
Ew,
don't ask them
so
their
they're like
age.
really old.
Yeah, they're really old. They're older than me.
Gross.
Yeah.
No, I think we
Anyways,
should do-
so if you have questions that you'd be like, hey, or if you've ever felt like that an older generation misunderstands you, like, let's see if we can clear some of that up and see if we can have some fun with that. So if you want to send in questions ahead of time, the number we normally text, which I don't have memorized, you could do that, or if you can contact me or whatever, or just come and we're going to have time for you guys to text in questions there too.
Yeah, and the text and number will be there.
Yes, it will be there.
Yeah.
I just planned way ahead and don't have it now.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to Mr. Likely. Scam Likely, I don't want to talk to you.
Fair enough.
Cool,
But
cool.
This week we're gonna be continuing our topic, but before we get into that topic, I have done a little research on what we did last time. If you tuned in to the last podcast, of which not, you could probably go find it on YouTube and Facebook.
Yep, YouTube and Facebook both.
Because this is just a continuation of that, albeit we're missing Anna Rose this time. Mr. Series replacing her, but
Yeah, not as pretty.
yeah, no.
Mm.
But
Sorry.
anyways, so I know we had thrown around the idea of Nephilims being fallen angels. And I guess technically there are some like Jewish traditions and stuff that do say that they are fallen angels. But like especially now, like with what we believe, like as Christians and Adventists, that just raises too many logistical questions. Like, you know, if the fallen angels were walking around on the earth, why wasn't Satan? And why did Satan have to take the form of a snake? Or blah, 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 blah. And then I guess the most prominent question is, you know, how were angels able to reproduce with humans
Right.
and create the said hybrids? So,
And that was in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4.
Yes.
Is where that was at.
Mhm.
So if you're like, what is he talking about? And you missed last week's, you can look it up there.
yeah. And
It talks about it there.
also, I feel like I should add that the translation of Nephilim literally means like big people or like large person. Like it, I think it's very clear, and that it was just our speculation, which is why research is important.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is we were talking about there wasn't a 120-year time gap mentioned. We were wrong about that. There is, when it had talking about the 120-year time gap on, or not time gap, like limit on people's lives. That was basically saying the people who are alive now, they only get to live 120 more years, and then everything after that is going to be gone.
Right.
And I mean, definitely the lifespan of the human was shortened after the flood. I mean, obviously, but that wasn't directly referring to now nobody's going to live longer than 120.
I'm actually
years.
800 right now.
Yeah. So I mean,
Approximately.
yeah, you only have a few more days left. I mean,
Yeah.
or maybe weeks if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But you know,
say goodbye to your loved ones?
I'm not actually 800. It's just a joke.
But are you still like days away or like weeks away?
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So on that happy note, let's just jump right into chapter 7 because we did kind of wrap up 6 and we started jumping around all over the place. But just to get more back on track, we're going to pick up at chapter 7.
So yeah, it's Genesis chapter 7.
Genesis
And we were
chapter 7.
talking about Noah, if you didn't pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
So picking up on the story of Noah, 6 was kind of like a pre-story, like pre-flood stuff. And 7:1 starts with, the flood covers the earth is the name of the title. But Faith said she's like, please let me read this. So I was like, okay.
Oh, I did?
Yeah,
I mean, we
Okay.
don't necessarily have to have somebody read it because last time we just kind of said, hey, this was interesting.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Unless
know.
you guys didn't do your homework.
I
kidding.
did do my homework. I actually read 6, 7, and 8.
Well, you did more than us.
And if you
so.
know how slow of a reader I am, that's saying something.
Oh, good job, Mr. Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you didn't have to pat me on the back. I patted
Yeah.
my
But
Got it.
it's more important when I pat you on the back.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
we
go
already
ahead.
got it. Okay.
Okay.
You want to get
there.
on this, Michael?
I'm okay, honestly.
He's like, ew, physical affection.
Yeah.
So 7, verse 1, the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal. That is not really discussed when you go to like Sabbath school.
I know I always thought that it was
Two of every.
it was 2 of everything and then 7 clean animals.
That's what I thought for the
And I was
longest
like,
time.
and I was like, why 7? That's an odd number. And I was, just like, I was younger at the time, and I was like, wait, so there's gonna be one guy who's not married or like, like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, he's left out. That would suck to be him. But it's 2 of every animal and 14 of every clean animal. Or
Right.
1 pair of every animal and 7 pairs of every.
I was
unclean
literally
animal.
like in my late 20s before I realized that.
Yeah.
I was like,
'Cause,
there's
like-
like 7 pairs, and I was like, wait, did that say 7 pairs?
Yeah.
Not 7?
I learned that just like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like even
Still
in
better than
Sabbath
me.
schools here in church, like I was never taught that.
Yeah. Well,
Should have come to my Sabbath school.
we were reading Judges.
Yeah, we're reading Judges, but if
Okay.
we were reading this, we would have talked
Yeah, okay.
about it.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids know it. Come on, Faith.
And also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth.
Which is kind of interesting because not every kind of bird is
Clean.
clean.
Yeah.
But it said 7 pairs of every kind of bird.
What's the requirement for a bird to be clean? Because
Not run along the ground,
Yeah.
and that would rule out chickens though. I read this so like they can't be birds of prey
Oh. Okay.
or scavengers.
Oh, scavengers. Yeah.
So scavengers and birds of prey are out. So this is like every kind of hawk, no, which I think probably includes eagles,
Yeah.
and then vultures and
Well,
so the ones that eat other animals, no,
What are do ostriches eat other animals?
No.
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 But
So is it
I think
clean?
I don't think that one counts because it runs
Well,
on
I
the
think
ground.
I think when it's talking about runs on the ground, that might be like main mode of transportation.
Yeah.
Like its legs. Where chicken technically it is still wings,
Yeah.
even
But
if they don't use
ostriches
them.
can like hop.
I know, but ostriches are really fast and stupidly strong on their legs.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
So is there 14 ostriches? Which does that count? Does it count as a bird or
Yeah.
doesn't really matter?
I wonder if their same definition of bird was the same as ours now. I mean, I would assume so, but I mean, just
And they
something to
probably
think
had
about.
10 times more variety of birds than we do now because they went
Or
extinct
less.
and all that.
Yeah, or it could have been less because there was less time to like branch off.
Breed.
and- yeah,
Whatnot.
but are
Yeah.
birds even real? I'm just kidding.
No, they're the government trying to spy on us.
Oh, I was gonna go that. They're just a collection of atoms behaving as birds.
Yeah.
Oh.
So in verse 4 it says 7 days from now I'll make the rain pour down on the earth. So he had to go in the boat
And just sit there
and then
for
wait
7
for
days.
7 days.
I wonder like where he's at on the boat because depending on where it was, I would imagine it could get pretty humid.
Well, he did
That
have
stuff.
like the gap along the top, right? So there would be
Yeah.
some breeze system.
So did he just like
He's
have a
just chilling
balcony
out.
and just chilled on the balcony, set up a little hammock and pray
I mean,
to Jesus?
use your imagination. I don't know.
Well, I mean, his whole family was there, so it wasn't like he was just sitting there like this. He was probably talking or whatever, he was doing with the
I wonder if he
family.
built like separate little rooms for everybody.
I don't know.
I mean, it said to make stalls for the animals.
So he
But I
probably
mean, like,
made stalls for his
rooms
children.
for the
No, I'm
people.
just kidding.
Yeah,
It would make
I
sense.
would imagine so. But I don't
They
really
also
know.
had they also had to have some sort of like storehouse for every food. Because
Right.
remember, he also told him to go grab one of everything like that.
Right, yeah, enough food for your family and the animals,
Hmm.
which is pretty crazy.
And that's a lot of food.
It is. Which is one of the arguments on like why people think it's not possible.
The food thing.
Yeah, because they're like, how can you have enough food for every type of animal for a year? Because they were on there for more than a year, like 14 months, I think.
Hmm. I mean,
Or,
then
no, 12 and a half months. Yeah, I think 12 and a half months if I added this morning, if I remember right. Because it was like 10 months and then another 4.5 months. Or 10 and a half and then another 4.
But I mean, we still don't know all the details of the ark. I mean, obviously we know its dimensions, but we don't know the every ins and outs of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, because I'm just thinking, especially if God didn't want the food to like go extinct or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
he would also have to bring like seeds and stuff, because
Right.
there's no way you're just going to bring apples and stuff and then like they would probably rot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's very plausible with how big the ark was that maybe like top deck or something, he had like farming plots.
Oh, maybe like so he's growing food in the
Yeah.
middle of it.
Well, and like they came
I
off
didn't
of
even
it,
think of that.
and everybody was like an orchard farmer afterwards, right? Because they planted like apple trees and XYZ, and that would probably be the stuff that's hardest to grow in the ark, considering it's full trees, and trees
Mhm.
don't grow within a year.
Right. But I also, so I think maybe, this is my speculation,
Mhm.
like when God created stuff at the beginning, like during creation,
Oh, it was amazing.
like he didn't like create seed, you know what I mean? He didn't like, let me create a seed and then plant it.
Mhm.
Like he created trees.
Yeah.
And most likely he just like sped up their growth.
Mhm.
Or you mean to be like, hey, I'm going to create, you know, so like it's not like it's just going to have one ring.
Mhm.
If you were to cut down a tree right after creation, I'm pretty sure it'd have,
Multiple.
you know, hundreds of rings or something. And so he probably, in my imagination, he would have done something similar after the flood, because everything would have been, you know,
Yeah.
overturned.
Mhm.
But yet after a year, you know, the dove brought back like an olive branch.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was, you know, from a little bitty tree or what, but it's something at least that it was like, hey, let me bring this back from my nest or something.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, it literally just said branch, not like
Right.
a branch 6 cubits or
Right.
half a cubit long or
Mhm.
whatever.
So it makes me wonder if God did something. Hey, look, I've just destroyed everything on Earth, but it needs to have some vegetation. So he's kind of like, okay, let's speed up this process.
Well, that's not the only time we've seen God do it either. Like with this, we have the story of Jonah, where Jonah was sitting and like pouting in the desert.
Oh,
and
right,
God's like,
yeah.
here, take this shade, and a tree grew up, and Jonah was still complaining, and he's like, fine, no more shade, and then shriveled the tree.
Yeah, with a worm.
Yeah.
Okay, this
Or was
is
it a caterpillar? Or half and half?
kind of besides the point, but to move on
Okay.
just a little bit. And it says 40 days, 40 nights, yada yada yada. And I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have ever made. So, what about the water, like the fishies and stuff like that? He couldn't bring those on the boat, right? Because they'd die.
Well, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you were here with Pastor Nick, and then he made that group chat and texted everybody the answer. But I know one of the things was the salinity of the water, because they're freshwater fish and ocean fish. And basically, like, what was it? It was like the salt could have not been, like, fully evenly dispersed is not the word. But I mean, the salt levels could not have been equal,
Mhm.
possibly. But then also, like, Pastor Nick was also very, which is true, that you can't really take God out of the equation for that part. I mean, like the earth flooding,
Like, there's still fish today.
yeah.
So,
Right.
like,
Oh, you're saying like how did they survive?
yeah.
Yeah, so it talks about only taking land animals and birds. So it leaves out fish. Obviously, fish are still around.
Yeah.
So I assume that since they're in the water, God was like, hey, let's protect the fish. Or, you know, like, hey, this area of.
So, what I'm hearing is water dinosaurs. are still alive.
Possible.
Nessie is real, guys. Nessie is real.
Where would they live?
I don't know, but they,
In the trench.
yeah.
You know, if
They-
you go through the
they
bottom
were-
of the trench.
They were more surface dwellers.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
they're not going to be in the bottom. Oh,
No, she's saying water dinosaurs.
I know. Like,
Oh.
I've gone down tons of rabbit holes watching stuff on marine biologists reacting to video proof that the megalodon is real, and all of them is just like, oh my goodness, this could not happen because like the megalodon was a reef shark, blah blah blah, so it wouldn't be living at the Mariana Trench or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. And basically a lot of the like water dinosaurs, from how we understand their physiology,
They wouldn't be deep
they
water.
don't live deep.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, I guess, especially if it's like a divine thing, they could still be real. Or still be alive, sorry, not real. But I don't, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So we only have one camera, the other one turned off, apparently.
Which camera is it?
Just the center one.
Ah,
I was going to switch cameras so it wouldn't get boring for everybody, but the other one isn't working, so...
too bad. You're stuck with
Yeah, just
the
this one
boring
shot.
ass.
I feel like
Yeah.
no one even notices anyway when we like transition. Like it's not even that big of a deal. It's just like
Maybe.
another angle.
If we wanted to, we could stand up and, like, move chairs.
No.
Just
Switch it up. Yeah.
slowly rotate throughout the whole thing. I'm too tired.
Okay,
right now.
never mind.
No.
Where are we going with this? I got distracted.
Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth, and Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God commanded Noah.
Yeah, so right there I was talking about animals that scurry along the ground. So it's just like he didn't have
It
to
wasn't the
he had to
fish.
bring fish bowls in.
Yeah. And one thing I found interesting too is Noah's sons' wives, because they were not married when the 120 years started for Noah to build the ark. So in that time they had to go out and get married. So that means these women were they had not necessarily found favor with God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they had to, because in some way for God to kind of put them
Right.
together, but like these women were not like, God was not like, go out and marry these women because these women are still
Mhm.
good. It was like, go out and find wives and then, come back to the ark,
Right.
basically.
I also, as I was reading, because I read 6, 7, and 8 this morning, I don't remember where it was at, but it was talking about only Noah, and it had just named like Noah and his sons and their wives,
Mm.
and it said only Noah found found favor in God's sight, and I was like, wait, it just named 4 men at least, which
Yeah.
8 people, 4 men, and then it said only Noah had found favor. So it's like, I don't know if it meant like Noah and his family,
Yeah.
like they at least had some idea of God, right? Because they grew up in that godly home. But it said specifically only Noah, and I was like,
Well, and I wonder
wow,
too,
did they?
since like biblically and stuff, the societies and stuff were so patriarchal that if it said Noah, that meant like Noah's house.
Right, yeah. So I don't know, but I thought it was interesting because I hadn't noticed that it said only Noah. And like in today's society, like if I was like only Larry, it wouldn't refer to like me and my sons. It would just mean me.
Yeah. Or even necessarily you and your wife.
Yeah,
But I
it wouldn't
mean-
even mean me and my wife.
If that were the case, then like if it was only just Noah, like his sons and his sons' wives wouldn't be let on the boat.
Well, it also could have just been like a greater good thing. Like, yeah, these people aren't the best, but their dad is pretty good, and we're going to need to repopulate the earth.
Yeah, but it may have been like they may not have found favor, but they still chose to go.
Yeah. So even if God wasn't like, these are outstanding men, when Noah made the call,
They
they
came
were willing to step up.
because I'm sure they would have had the choice
Yeah.
to not go on the boat.
I mean, would they though?
I mean, they're like a couple hundred years old. So
Yeah,
I think
'cause-
they're-
It was back in chapter 5, I think that was the genealogy. Where was it? 'Cause, after Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So he was 500. Well, after 500, so he was at least 500 when he had his
son
kids.
was 100 years old.
They would have been at least
when
100.
They went on the boat.
Well, like We don't know how much after 500, but
Because it says when he was 600.
right. So yeah,
Well, I'd assume it would be like
90s.
around the 500 at least, because then they had to go out and find wives.
Right.
I don't see especially in Bible times, I don't see a 20-year-old. Well, not even just Bible times, but pre-flood times, when people were living to be like 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
A 20-year-old going out and finding a wife is like, it's like a 2-year-old going out
Yeah.
to find a wife now.
I was actually going through because it has like genealogy and the end of chapter 5 from Adam to Noah.
Mhm.
And it says like how old they were when they became fathers
Mhm.
and then how much longer they lived. And most of them were in their hundreds before they started having kids.
Mhm.
Like Enosh was 90 years old. Kenah was 70 years old, 65. Jared was 162 years old when he had kids. Enoch was 65, 187 for Methuselah. Lamech was 182.
Oh, so Noah was late.
Yeah, so Noah was like 500.
Wow.
But like no one's like for us now we're like, oh, you have kids in your 20s or your 30s. Oh,
And
like
40s
and almost
is
like
like-
40s we're like, oh, you're kind of getting old, but these guys are having kids
In their
like
hundreds and
at least, like 60s or 70s.
Well, but then again, like you look at Methuselah and like how long he lived, that's basically like, if you do the math of, and we're not taking like developmental and stuff into account, obviously, but just the straight numbers, that's about like the same as somebody having a kid when they're 18 now. You know, just assuming, just for simplicity's sake, you know, the average lifespan, because Methuselah lived to be like 1,000 something.
Yeah, he was
He was almost
187. So
1,000. It was like
969.
900. and-
969. So,
69. So say 1,000.
1,000, and then just for simplicity purposes for humans, we'll
We
call
live
it
100.
100. Like that's 18 years old.
Right.
Even still, which that gets even weirder when you look at people like 65, because then that's like 6.5 years old.
Right.
So, but I mean, I guess that would go to show that like that the 1,000-year lifespan that they lived wasn't like just our average human life stretched. It was like this end was taken and stretched.
Yeah, or like
you know?
the prime years of your life was
It
stretched. So like you still matured roughly what we did, you know.
Mhm.
So
The
by the
first,
time
like,
you're
20 years.
12 to 18, then you're, like a full-grown adult. And then you live in your prime for
Who knows how long?
600 years,
Yeah.
800 years, and then you get old the last little
And
bit.
then you get old. Just real quick.
I'm just, I mean,
You
I'm
wake
sure it
up
would be a
one morning,
slow
just-
process, but
Yeah. I mean, it would be short compared to the prime, you know.
yeah, but like for us now, it's like between you 20 and 80. I mean, if you're healthy at 80 and moving around real good and running marathons, everyone's like, wow, you're so healthy. So it's like, 60 years. But for them,
It was like 600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
So, it says in chapter 7 of verse 11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth. So that means on his birthday.
No,
Right?
in his 600th year, on the 17th day of the second month.
So it was just during that thing.
Yeah, so it was in his year of 600.
I mean, yeah.
And
well,
then-
I wonder too if it's talking about like from the second month and however many days from his birthday, or if
Oh,
it's just
maybe
in the
so.
year that he turned 600. It was this.
When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the second month.
Because I mean, it doesn't really specify. But then again, I think that would more go back to like Jewish calendars and stuff and how they.
Because it's different than
Yeah,
our
because I mean,
calendars.
yeah, because you could say like, talking about this year, in the same year Michael turned 16 on the second month, 11th day.
Mm-hmm.
That could be talking about, February 11th, because there is no 32nd day.
Mm-hmm. Or it
But-
could be talking about 2 months after you
yeah,
turn
well,
16.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Either, I mean, it doesn't necessarily
Well,
matter. The point
yeah.
is that they took note as oh, this is the day that it happened.
Were the seasons the same back then as they were
Well,
now?
I think that poses a really interesting question of, has the Earth always been tilted? Because the seasons rely on its tilt and
Yeah.
like its position in there. So
'Cause it's-
I think it would depend on if the Earth was tilted and if it was meant to, and B, where they were. Because if they were in like North America stuff, it would probably be really cold. But if they were in like Australia or like the South,
Mhm.
like Southern Hemisphere, not like the South as we know it.
And how much like the Earth got shifted. You know what I mean? Like, because it could have all been one landmass. Because you've
Yeah.
seen that thing
Oh,
where
yeah.
like, oh, they all broke apart. Was it all one before, and then it broke apart into
The
the different
Pangea
continents?
thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Which that's something really interesting to think about because
Because I mean, if it was like ice water or whatever, like
yeah,
that could also kill off a bunch of things.
but actually, ice water would make a lot of sense to kill off a bunch of things fast. But I guess God wasn't really
just
too
freeze.
concerned with time
No.
because he let it be flooded for a year.
Right. I feel like it was flooded for.
That's fair. You said that you were gonna
No.
throw it, and I was like, you took it away from me to just shatter.
Also, like, if you read back in creation, because it also says that torrents of rain from the sky continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. If you read back about creation, it said that God separated the water of the earth from the water of the sky. And so I've heard a theory, it's not mine, that there was like a water layer in the atmosphere that would have kind of like stabilized the seasons, right? So like whenever it's closer to the sun, it would help cool it, and whenever it's further away from the sun, like it would, you know how water like takes longer to
Yeah.
change temperature than
Well, it
the air
has a-
temperature does.
Yeah, it has a
So
high
it kind
speed
of, you know, like if
Okay.
there was like a layer of water on the outside, and that might, some people also think that there's like higher oxygen levels, which would allow things to grow a lot bigger.
I've heard that because the ozone layer wasn't as like
Right.
affected.
But think
by-
about if there was a whole huge layer of water on between us and outer space. That could also account for.
I'd be really interested on what that looked like just from the Earth perspective. Because
Oh,
when I
right.
think like layer of water in the sky, I think of clouds. But I mean, was it really like cloudy, 24/7, and the perfect world? Like, I mean, like yeah, I like cloudy days and stuff now. But like, if I was in this perfect, blissful, like everything world, I don't imagine a cloudy sky.
Or you imagine like bright blue.
Yeah, like
But would it still be bright blue?
oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was just on how it looked like
I don't know.
would it look any different at all?
And I
Would
don't
it
even
just
know
be
if it
like-
was that way.
Yeah.
It was just like that would kind of make sense on how seasons maybe weren't as bad before. You could grow stuff year round.
Yeah.
And where all the water came from. Like how did we cover everything? Which
Well,
I feel like God could have just made more water.
yeah. Well,
But-
and like thinking too of the like back in the Garden of Eden and stuff. I know that might be like different because it ended up getting like divine protection and stuff. But like stuff was made there, and like their food was the food on the trees and stuff. So like when they were hungry, they would just go and grab food. But if that was like the seasons are now, you could go and do that like during fall, maybe spring, depending
Right.
on the tree. But then you'd have to wait another year, and it wasn't like God told them, okay, during these months go and stockpile. But it was like you may eat of any fruit of the tree
Right.
of the garden, just not this one. And so like were they constantly like you would take it and eat it, and then it would just regrow quickly, or like
Yeah, but I mean, plants still do that, like on the equator. You know, like banana
Yeah.
trees. You know, you cut a stalk and it starts growing more,
well
and you can
Also,
eat them, and
too-
it's like constantly reproduce. You know,
It's-
making more fruit.
yeah, well, and I know this is like getting really speculative and stuff, which is all it is, just speculation.
But
But
it's fun to talk about.
yeah, but like Eden wasn't that like theorized or whatever to be close to the equator and stuff, or like around the Middle East area?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well,
that
because
was
it
like,
mentions
oh, yeah.
like the River Tigris and stuff, and there is a River Tigris in the Middle East, or I think that's it,
Right, yeah, because it had
because it had
four
like
rivers that
four-
flowed out of it.
Yeah,
But also, like, Eden was pre-flood, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, would it make sense that we still have the same rivers pre-flood and post-flood?
yeah. Well,
Like, in my mind, no.
because I mean, if there's a possibility of not having the same continents, then I feel like
Right.
Well,
and
and
it's
I'm just-
also possible that they knew the river,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, oh, this is the whatever river. And then after the flood,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they were traveling around and they're like, hey, this river looks like that river. And
Yeah.
so they named it, even though it's not the same river.
Yeah.
They just like renamed it because it reminded them of that one.
ooh, I wonder that too. If one reason, if the flood was also to kind of, oh, that's actually really interesting to think about, is the significance of the flood in the Garden of Eden in that relationship, because God was basically done, right? So if the flood came in and wiped out all the earth, that means it would wipe out the Garden of Eden, which was basically the perfect sanctuary for humans, right? And while, yes, it was like closed off and stuff from the outside world, but it was still there. And then the flood came and like...
Was it taken? Like, did God take it up?
Well, no,
Or
it was
am I
still
thinking
there.
of something else?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
We could look it up.
I don't know.
But
We said we were going to keep it to 30 minutes, and it's 7.
so
I
it's
don't
like
know.
now.
We haven't even gone through the freaking thing yet.
Okay, let's go fast.
Y'all need to like
Let's
quit getting
just
Stop
off
having
topic.
fun.
Yes.
So for 40 days, the floodwaters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the water rose higher and higher above the ground, I'm in 18 if you care, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peak, which is, I guess, 15 cubits.
Oh, so there's
Mine-
a conversion factor.
Yeah, mine puts it in like modern day thing. All the living things on earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people. So again, it doesn't mention fish and the things that died. So he had to have at least preserved some fish. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth: people, livestock, small animals, and that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. Which I guess would make sense why, part of the reason why there had to be water over the earth for so long. Because like birds can fly, but not
For a year straight.
Not for a year straight.
And they can't really go swim down in 22 feet water to get to the tallest point.
Right.
Yeah.
All were destroyed. Only the people who survived were Noah and those with him on the boat. And the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days.
That's a long time.
So
There we finished 7.
really quick. Oh. So it's okay for incest to happen when they're the only people on the earth, but other than that, it's not okay.
Are you attracted to a cousin?
No, absolutely not.
Well,
I'm just confused by that.
And one of the things, I feel like I've talked about this with somebody. It might have been you at lunch that one day, but like the gene pool and stuff at that time had probably not become as convoluted and as so bad, for lack of
Yeah.
a better word, as it was today. There probably wasn't, all of this stuff for all of these deformities and blah, 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 blah. As there is today. It was probably a way better gene pool, seeing as it's closer descendants of Adam and Eve. So you probably don't have all of the risk of all this stuff. And also, it wasn't simply Noah's gene pool because they had their wives.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, technically their children were still going to be related, but it's not like brother and sister and then their kid and then, there was still some variety to that thing,
Yeah.
to that gene pool. I mean, culturally, I couldn't tell you, but... Well, I can tell you why today, but I couldn't tell you for back then.
Was pregnancy the same thing? Like, was it the same amount of time? Was it, like,
I don't know.
because of...
Well, because I think we do know that it was still painful because that was one of the curses on
yeah,
Eve.
but I mean, like, because the lifespan was so much longer, does that mean they were pregnant for longer or less? Or did they grow faster because they're bigger? Or, like...
Yeah, or maybe if there was an extended time, was that extended time in the womb something that, like, would let them live longer, like more
Yeah.
development before they entered the world?
I've never thought about that, to be honest.
Neither have I.
Like, I always assumed...
Sorry, that's where my mind... Sorry.
I mean,
I always
as
assumed
guys,
it was, 9 months.
But does it, like, ever say anything about it in the Bible? Like, how long a woman was pregnant?
I have no idea. Well, although
I'm no expert, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm a math teacher.
Although it would make, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little longer, like somewhere like 10 months to a year, but I would be shocked if it was anywhere past that because, we do know that they developed relatively quickly for their whole lifespan because people were having kids at 60, 65, 70. Well, yes, that's a whole lot later
Well,
than
yeah,
us
that's
now.
like 25, 30.
But they were still developing for like that 10% of their lives right there. And then, or not even 10%, like more like 5%, 5 to 6%,
Yeah.
you know, enough to have kids. And then they were off. So I don't necessarily think it being like a drastic difference. But I don't know.
Yeah. Some of the stuff is fun to think about and speculate about, but
And just talk.
whatever answer you come to, I mean, doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah.
As far as like, because the whole purpose of like the Bible and the stories is to like help us understand about God and our salvation and get to know God better.
Yeah.
So,
So
you
whether
know what I
or
mean?
not-
Like the actual lifespan, or
So whether
did the
or not-
otter end up on the boat, or you know what I mean?
Otters,
Like,
otters are killing
or the-
machines.
sorry.
There's no way they ended up on the boat.
oh, okay. I mean,
But they're
platypus. I guess I was
cute.
thinking. You know,
Yeah,
like
but they also can grow up to 6 feet long, and they also are like, they also like kill jaguars and crocodiles and anything that comes their way. Anyways,
sidetrack there.
I've learned a lot
Yeah.
about otters this week.
I bet.
Why, we ask? Wait.
We just choose not to ask, and he just says it.
Well, I mean, you brought up otters, and I was like,
I didn't say otters.
I was thinking platypus because they're
Oh,
like
platypus. Oh.
like I said otter, but I was thinking of platypus because they're like
Oh.
both. You know,
Yeah.
they live in the water, but they can also live on land.
But what do they
and-
breathe? Don't they have like
Both?
air? Or
They
because I know I know their big thing is that they're mammal that lays eggs.
Right. So
But
they
I
do
don't-
breathe air.
I'm
if they're
pretty
a
sure they're
mammal.
like
Probably.
dolphins. They can like
Yeah. So what about dolphins? Were they on the boat?
Well, I mean,
Or are they
could
in the
come up
water?
to air because dolphins don't jump on land; they just need somewhere to
I know.
like breach and get air.
Yeah. So they were probably in the water.
Yeah.
Even though they're still a mammal.
Well,
I'm saying
yeah,
is-
but they would survive. In
My
the
point
water.
is that it doesn't matter.
right.
You know,
we're
it doesn't
sidetracking.
matter. About
Or
all
you know,
the
people
stuff.
will argue about, well, was the bat made on the 5th day or on the 6th day? Because it's a mammal, but it flies. Well, like, doesn't really
Oh, I thought you
matter.
said the Batman. No, I was
No,
like,
bat.
When was Batman made?
Was Batman made on the 5th day because like he has a cape and can glide, or was he?
Oh my goodness.
I'm just kidding.
We digress.
Yeah. So
It's usually how these things go.
But
yes.
they're fun.
Yeah.
So there is a good chance that we'll pick up on chapter 8 next
Yeah,
week.
chapter 8.
3-part series.
By
You
next
know,
week, we mean next week.
Next week. Yes, next podcast is what I meant.
And Gianni is
Fortnite.
hopefully will be there.
Fingers crossed.
Pastor Nick will be proud of you.
Okay.
I'm going to tell him to watch the end just so he can catch that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you, Pastor Nick.
Yeah.
And unless you guys are sick and tired of hearing us ramble on about these nonsensical things.
No one
but-
ever comments, so
Yeah, that's true. So,
If
know,
you
your
start
silence
commenting,
is-
then
Do we
maybe.
have fake fans? You're supposed to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
something like that.
Get
yeah.
with it.
But even if no one watches, this is still fun.
It
Yeah.
is fun.
It's fun to
It's a
speculate.
weird, not a weird, but it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you can like hear yourself in the headphones.
Yeah.
And when you get really close to the mic, it sounds cool.
It sounds really cool.
You sounded like one of those guys who do like the infomercials. Like that's what you sounded like.
I was gonna try something, and then I was like, no, that's just gonna be embarrassing. All right, so 2 weeks from tonight, we're crossing our fingers for Gianni.
And then this
So
Saturday.
if you see Gianni between now and then, tell him like, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you here. Yeah.
yeah,
Tell
make
him not to back out.
guilt trip him
Yeah.
into coming. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Unless it
Or do.
works, then you can.
Yeah.
I mean, no,
It's
I mean,
don't.
that's
Gianni, it's
okay.
okay.
I mean, not officially,
Not officially. Yeah, we're not. No, don't. Go
Unofficially.
tripping.
but
Respectfully.
you know, like not. We didn't tell you to. do it.
Respectfully.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then this Saturday is Cafe Youth, 6
Yes.
o'clock to 9 o'clock. The what was it called? Intergenerational.
I just said intergenerational.
It's the
I can't even
intergenerational.
say it.
Intergenerational.
Intergalactic.
Slow down sometimes.
Intergenerational.
Did you say
Cafe
intergalactical?
Youth. I said intergalactic. Yes.
Oh.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. We're having an
Talk about
intergalactic.
Star
podcast.
Wars.
We're changing subjects.
Yeah, right.
Intergalactical sounds way more
We're
fun.
having
It
an
does.
intergalactical generational podcast or something like that.
Dress up like a
I mean,
favorite Star
a
Wars
podcast.
character.
What am I talking about? Cafe Youth.
Yes.
At which also too. This is
That sounded cool.
Awful.
Wait.
this is something. This this is also something kind of unrelated, but if you are interested in helping us with music for Cafe Youth, please let us know.
Yeah.
We've lost Anna Rose, and now we're in the need
Sarah
of
said she's
vocalists.
going to be there.
Oh, we'll have Sarah, but it would be nice not to put it all on Sarah.
And
hopefully Kennedy.
Yeah.
maybe this will get some comments. If you're interested in being on the podcast, comment down below.
Or contact me.
Or
Yeah.
contact any of us.
I would say
Literally any of us.
contacting us is better because
By us, I mean like Michael, myself, and Mr. Siri.
Yeah.
Yep.
because
Or-
contacting us, there's a 50-50 chance we'll see it in the comments.
Michael doesn't answer his phone ever, so
It's not true. You
don't
text me
contact
back.
him.
That's just for group chats.
You
Hey.
text him back?
He just not group
I mean,
chats.
I just don't like group chats.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Anyways.
And I just gotten one for student association, so
Oh,
I
fun.
can't wait to ignore that.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I like my role as treasurer, I think. But, okay, yeah.
I think we're done, right?
There.
We're
Do we need to
tired,
talk about
we're
anything
done.
else? No.
How's your week?
We're good. My
I
week
don't know.
was.
Okay. Anyways,
It's halfway
thank you
done.
Yeah.
thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Feels like I've already
Thank
done
you
a
for
whole week.
Tuning
Yeah.
in. Tell others about us. Share with your
Yes.
friends.
Share it.
Grow this community.
Share it. Comment if you have any feedback. Which I mean,
No one ever does. but
it's never too
hey.
late to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.